Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer, and this is the Road to the Record, where I work to achieve mastery of 10 games and I hunt for the best score of the Decathlon. If you'd like to see, remember to hit that like button. If you want to see more, hit subscribe. Let the games begin. This is Steel Division 2, and it's episode 18. We're coming up on the end of our first campaign, and we are so close to our objectives, but here of late, it's really become a struggle in order to try to make things happen. So, our main objective here is Tolotskin, and we nearly came at it from behind, only to have the air forces that I don't see how they control land to block our progress, our front line coming through to Tolotskin from the rear. And then suddenly it got enclosed, and now there's a whole bunch of units that have popped up in here to defend it. And instead of trying to defend it from the front and us taking it from the rear, they've now got it covered. So we've got a real challenge on our hands with just today, just June 29th, left to happen. So we've got the AM left, and then we'll have a PM turn to have a shot at something. But this is going to be a heck of a challenge with all these forces and actually really quality German forces defending it. We've Territorial Infantry Battalion. That's not much to worry about. But that's a good regiment. Recon Panzer Battalion. We've got a Pioneer Battalion. They're decent. They're okay. All of the German forces are tougher. We've got this mixed AA battery, which unfortunately is too well protected. Otherwise, I would love to attack them because, well, anti-aircraft through this area. It makes it really hard for me to operate through here. I do have a fighter on the edge, and this fighter, their ring does give us protection over this Panzer Battalion. So this Panzer Battalion is the real threat. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to neutralize that threat by sacrificing one unit. So what we have is a bunch of Tiger E tanks. So there's 15 Tiger E's and 3 more Tiger E Führers, so leaders. So there are 18 Tiger tanks plus, hey, look at that, 2 more. So 20 Tiger tanks in this unit. And then we have a anti-aircraft gun, 3 of them. So we have half-track anti-aircraft. And then a few assault engineers, handful of recon squads, and that's it. That by itself is doable with anti-tank units, but we're outgunned. Nowhere do we compare. I do have my heavy tank regiment, but it's a bunch of KV tanks, and most of them are KV-1s. KV-1s are the original beginning of war heavy tank for the Soviets. It's heavily armored, but it cannot go toe-to-toe with the Tiger. The Tiger is far superior to the KV-1. Now, I do have some KV-85s, which are a little bit better. They're even more heavily armored, but they are incredibly slow, and their armament isn't much. So the only reason why they would ever beat the Tigers is if they had superior numbers. Basically, if I had the entire squad of 8 plus the other tanks with it, all in support, all going at the enemy all at once, and then numerical superiority, they could take out 1 or 2 tanks at a time. But we're outnumbered. We don't have numerical advantage, so I do not want my heavy tanks going up against their heavy tanks, especially when you start throwing in their other, like this Grenadier Division. We would not stand a chance. So I'm going to try to isolate this one by sacrificing this rifle regiment. This is a decent rifle regiment, and there are going to be some units, not them, that's only smoke. There you go. There's 2 with anti-tank grenades. There's an anti-tank rifle, PTRS. 60 shells, okay. There's 6 of those. Machine gun. That's an infantry mortar, sniper rifle. And that's it. So we have 2, 4, 6. There's 8. Eight plus these 6 anti-tank rifle teams. So we have 14 anti-tank units in this entire battle. Why? Because that's all I'm taking into the battle is this one unit alone. They're going to call in other reinforcements, and you're going to see here... Ooh, why can't I select them? No. I am very much in range of you. Attack! Oh, screw you. I can't attack them directly. This is not ideal. Okay, so this is the one that I want to launch my main attack on. Now, I have an A. I have a bomber. Air Force unit. And then all I have are 2 Cs that I can pull in. We've got one of these. This is anti-aircraft. And this is a mortar regiment. Now, I think I'm going to need the anti-aircraft. Why? Because, well, my fighter, I don't think, is going to cover that zone. Oh, this throws a real wrench in my plans. This mortar brigade, what are the MLRS with the rockets? They can inflict some damage. So I guess I'm going to have to bring them into a battle, and we're going to have to attack somebody else. But these guys are all dug in. Maybe this needs to be my initial attack, and then I'm going to have to pick one from there. I wanted this to be my secondary attack. But I'm not going to have the... Okay, well, we've got to do something here. I can't wait till the PM and have them dug in any further. Or do I try to flank them further? Come around to here, we move the front line. We come out of the forest, though. So we're going to try to continue flanking. Oh, look at that. The line is moved. But we can't enter. Still can't enter. I can almost encircle these guys, but that's not of use to me. But we finally moved that front line. I would love to attack these guys head on, but if I do that, everybody's still at their disposal. They're going to be dug in. I can't call on this tank battalion. I can't call on these guys anymore. So we're looking at this weak rifle corps. Recon squads. At least they have bazookas. Let's see, those bazookas, what can they do? Penetration 180 millimeters. Because if we go here, we're dealing with bunkers. And I can call on those bombers. If we win this battle, we take Talotskin. But I have one weak rifle corps. one anti-aircraft, which would mean I'd have to call on whatever I have left here. Recon, bomber, fighter. Can I call in the fighters? Well, let's see. Well, the fighters would be useful if they call in Air Force units. There's just no support. Maybe I should wait for the PM and all for one for all. We've got that mortar regiment. They would be useful against bunkers. They would both be A's. I don't know what kind of movement they're going to go in, but most of their units are dug in, right? I'm going to wait. No chipping away. We're going to literally take one battle. One decisive battle and go for it. Because there's no point attacking these guys and wasting my units. This would be an effective one if we defeated them, but I don't know if they're going to call in this territorial infantry battalion. And I don't know... Right back at the same problem. So, we're going to wait till the PM. No, those guys are dug in. Call these guys in. We can get them in here. There we go. So we're just going to do a little bit of redeploying here. Okay. Alright, so we've moved around. Can you split the... Oh, you could split them, but there's no point in doing that. Push this front line a bit. Let's do that. And then we'll just drop reinforcements. There we go. These guys are all routed. Can I bring one of you up to here? No. But I could retreat you. And then, yeah, there you go. Retreat. Replace. 36th Infantry. Let's call in another. It's all just rifle regiments. We have a rifle corps here. Yes, we'll call on these guys. You guys are going to pull back. Just up here. And we're going to bring up a replacement. There we go. That way they can't just attack the routed units. But this one, let's pull you back as well. There we go. And we're going to pull you back. Got a units pulled back. These guys in a little bit of trouble. There is some support up here in their place, but not much. Alright. Not what I was hoping for. Now I still have 2 fighters. Let me deploy them just in case. We'll deploy all around here. And you're going to deploy where? Probably here. Don't I already have something? Yeah, I do, right there. So it's already covered. I have here, but I don't have down here. So we'll get defending these guys. Suppose I could deploy the recon just to see. Air recon, this area. Nope, nothing new there. And you're gonna go somewhere over the rainbow. How about way down here? Nothing else down there. Okay. AM. Hopefully they don't try to counterattack anywhere. They are trying to escape to the north. Or not. You said I had through PM, not 2 PM. Well, there we go. First failure, just like that. And it said I had through PM, not 2 PM. So I was waiting to the PM to make my attack work. That's deployed. So here's a quick story for you before we move on to the next campaign. I served in the Army. I was a scout in the Army. And in the United States military, the branches are ultimately equal, but they're all different from each other in the role that they play. And ultimately, you know, when you think of sports, right? I went to University of Oregon, so Pac-12. I'm a diehard supporter of U of O. Went to every football game while I was there. Went to lots of basketball games, softball games. Saw some track and field. Saw the soccer team play. There was a lot that I was involved with. Baseball when it came back. So I always support my own. But then, beyond that, well, there's hundreds of universities across the country that participate heavily in athletics. So where do you go beyond that? Do you just support your one and everybody else screw them? Not normally. You don't hate on everybody in the world. And if you do, then you're probably in the wrong place. And you probably just spend all your time trolling people on YouTube constantly. That sounds about right. You tend to be impartial about most, or somewhat supportive of most. Well, here's the thing. U of O's in the Pac-12. I tend to support Pac-12 above any other conference. So, if the Washington Huskies, our biggest rival, if Washington is playing Ohio State, I'm going to root for Washington 100% of the time. Why? Because that's Pac-12. That's my conference. I want to see my conference do well. I want to see my conference be successful. I want Oregon to beat anybody else in the conference, but beyond that, I want the conference to do well. Oregon State, I'll root for them. So I'm supportive of the conference through and through, and that's the thing about the military too. And most people in the United States military will share a similar viewpoint on this. We will support the U.S. military through and through, regardless of branch. But just like it is within the Pac-12, you have your rivals. The sayings, the diehard, when it's time to play each other, you're going to go all out. Well, we do that within the branches of the military. And for the Army, it's the Marines. It's the Marines that are the rival. And the reason for that is quite clear, at least in the minds of the soldiers. Air Force is kind of laid back. The Navy is really laid back. Coast Guard, a lot of people don't take seriously at all. And they're wrong about all of those, but that's a general viewpoint. The diehard, arrogant one is the Marines. And so that's who the Army looks at and goes, we're the one who does the bulk of the fighting, not you. We're the one who make most of the gains, not you. And that's where that rivalry is born. But within that rivalry, there's one clear difference between Army and Marines, as I see it, tactically. The Marines, they have an objective. And their objective is to assault that target and take that objective as fast as possible. The Army prefers to take the objective with minimal casualties. So the Army is going to be more efficient, more effective in the long term, and that's why we win wars. The Marines win battles, but at great cost. And that's why ultimately the Army comes in and replaces them. Anyway, the tactical difference is that Marines are gung-ho. They're diehard. They're going to attack a target that they don't have superiority over. They're going to take a bunch of casualties, but they're going to overwhelm it, and they're going to take that objective. While the Army is going to gain tactical superiority, get into prepared positions, get into safe, secure areas, assault the target, and then do it without taking heavy losses. As you could see from this campaign, if you watched it throughout, that's how I play. It's how I was trained. It's how I was taught. And it's what works. It's tried and tested. This game putting this short timer on me, giving me just a few days to take an objective over superior German units, don't care for that. I really don't care for that. So I love how Steel Division 2 has introduced this campaign. But I strongly dislike this short timer that forces you to rush, that forces you to assault, that forces you to take large numbers of casualties that you will not otherwise be able to recover. So in my next campaign, I'm going to have to be more direct, I'm going to have to be more aggressive, and I'm going to have to sacrifice a lot more units. And I do not like that playstyle, because that playstyle gets you slaughtered unless things happen to go your way. When we had superiority, we were aggressive, we made breakthroughs, and we pushed on. But I was careful, I was tactical, and that cost me the time. I've halfway surrounded Orsha, and I've nearly got them cut off on all sides. They're going to fall in a day or two. I've gotten all the way to Tolotskin. I have it mostly surrounded. And as reinforcements come up, I would easily overwhelm them. So in a few days, I would have that. And I have moved the front lines considerably. In all intents and purposes, I have won this campaign through and through. And yet, I just lost it. Why? Because they put a short timer on it and make me play like a Marine, which, I'm an Army guy. Sorry. No offense to the Marines. That's your style, and apparently that style fits this game better. those last couple turns, I was more aggressive. And what happened? I lost most of those battles. And when I was careful, I inflicted heavy damage. You turn around and attack those units a second time and inflict heavy damage without taking massive damage yourself, and then the third time you wipe them out. That's how war works in real life. You do not just storm in with a giant force and roll over the enemy. If it is, well, that would be the Blitzkrieg in France at the beginning of the war. That's not what this game is about. This is summer of 44, where the war has been all out for years, and everybody's learned and is doing better. The Russians got steamrolled early on. This isn't that part of the war. This is where they're pushing back, and the only reason why they're really knocking off the Germans at this point is the Germans are stretched too thin, so they don't have as many forces to defend. Their forces have been fighting for years, and so they're exhausted. And the Allies, the Western Allies, not the Russians, are bombing the crap out of the factories and destroying their ability to replenish, especially the panzer units and the artillery units. Manpower is running, the reserves are running thin for the Germans. Anyway, everything favors the numerical superiority of the Soviets. So I kind of get it that, yeah, the numerical superiority is how you win it here. I don't care for this short timer, because in the real world, these guys are all about to get encircled and forced into surrendering. These guys in the north, same thing. They're all behind enemy lines without supplies. They're trying to break out from it, but they're not going anywhere. They're not a threat. And we're winning on every single part of the front. And the only area that we're not winning is the area that we haven't attacked. So we're not losing anywhere. And that's success. We've already taken the road beyond Talotskin. We've cut off their resupply. But we lost. Historical outcome, Soviet victory. Although the 78 Sturm Division repelled all Soviet assaults for 2 whole days, the 256 Infantry Division on its left flank quickly broke under pressure. See, they held out for 2 days, broke under pressure, opening a gap in the German lines. Quickly adapting to the situation, the Soviets pushed the 2nd Guards Tank Corps, which, here's that problem, 2nd Guard they've got down the main road, not up there. If they were up there to begin with, and I could have called on them from there, they would have rushed through. This would have been tank battalions, which are all up here in reserve, not in the fight yet. Bypassing the determined 27th Corps and trapping the 78th Sturm Division in Orsha. Trapped in Orsha. Talotskin fell to the Red Army late on June 26th, which was earlier than it is here in game, but of course I'm only getting 2 turns, moving much shorter distances, while German pockets of resistance were still fighting desperately in Orsha. Total defeat victory ratio was 1-4. Excuse me. Yeah, total units destroyed. We gained a bit of points here as we inflicted more damage than we lost. And that's what I'm talking about with my approach. The Soviets have more that they could afford to lose, and yet we did slightly more than 50% of the killing throughout this campaign. Soldiers, almost identical numbers within 50 of each other. But tanks, look at that. We took out 84 tanks and lost 34. Main reason for that, we don't have the tanks. And the tanks that did finally get called up in reserve, they never got to the front. They never got into the battle. cannons, slight edge there as well, but the big edge was definitely in tanks. And that was worth a lot more points. 30 points for each kill. So that's where we got that almost 1,500 point advantage there. But we did not take the territory. And so we lose. That first campaign can certainly be replayed, but it's going to happen later. Why? Because realistically, if we're trying to make a historical timeline, the Orsha campaign is the northern campaign. Berezina, at the same time. Oh no, this is the follow-up to that. So this would be after taking those areas, which we were already there. There's Orsha right at the edge. So this is the continuation of that. And by the way, that is the hardest campaign of them. So we started with the most difficult. Berezina is the continuation on towards Minsk. And then we have the southern front below that, because there's Orsha, with that already taken. Starting after, I mean, we're now timeline, further and further down the line. And this is now the southern push. And then this is now beyond Minsk on that same southern front. So we are going to move on to the second campaign. And we'll at least get our introduction to it. So, Berezina. German front is broken. Soviet mobile forces are racing into Army Group Center's rear to isolate and capture its command and logistical centers. Meanwhile, the Germans are cobbling together whatever forces they can to hold the red tide long enough for powerful reinforcements to arrive. Again, even though I technically lost the campaign, we effectively were in that strong position to push beyond Orsha. They were surrounded on almost every side. We were almost done with those breakthroughs to where their defense was crumbling there at the end, and I had certainly inflicted heavy damage. I don't like that it cut me off on the time, and it doesn't tell you what that time's going to be until you get a couple days from it. Now, I'm starting as the Soviets, which is a definite challenge. We're going to stay on medium where we were last time, see if they can do better this time out. I won most of my battles. The battles I lost were ones that I kind of expected to for the most part, and I only got slaughtered like once. And we definitely inflicted heavy damage quite a few times on them. So overall we did well, and I learned a lot. We'll see how the second campaign goes and whether we could do any better. Again, realistically, I think we play through okay through that first campaign to where
if some German generals have been able to foresee the impending enemy offensive, all are shocked by the violence of the Soviet assault when it is unleashed on the morning of June 22nd. Artillery, planes, and rocket launchers devastate the German first and support trench lines, while the survivors are immediately overwhelmed by Soviet assault troops. In a matter of days, Vitebsk, Orsha, Mogilev, and Babruysk, the main strong points of the German defense, fall or are surrounded. The 3rd Panzer Army and 9th Army are pushed back in different directions, leaving the 4th Army between them, surrounded on both sides and in danger of encirclement. By then, Minsk is only defended by a string of security troops hastily cobbled together and thrown against the Soviet tanks, while the mighty 5th Panzer Division is dispatched in a hurry and piecemeal to stem the red tide.
Orsha is about to fall. Army Group Center's front is broken, and what remains of the 4th Army is in full retreat. No major German unit now stands in the way of the Red Army's march toward Minsk and Molodechno.
That's the 4th Army here, beneath us. 3rd Panzer above us.
This railroad link is vital to the Wehrmacht. It is the Army Group's lifeline. Cutting it is one of the major Soviet objectives. The Berezina River is the last natural obstacle the Germans can use to slow down the Red Army, especially the bridges near Borisov.
Oh, see, look. There's Orsha. This was the area that we were surrounding right here. Those troops were all surrounded right here. And then we had pushed into here. And we hadn't touched here near Gorky. But our lines are actually really similar down here. Here's the Tolotskin right there. Right there. So, this little pocket, yeah, that was all they had left. And then Tolotskin. And ultimately, this is very similar to exactly what I accomplished. And yet we failed. But, just moving on. Berezina River, last natural obstacle. This one right here. The Germans can use to slow down the Red Army, especially the bridges near Borisov. So bridges near here. This is going to be the main target.
The 5th Panzer Division has been dispatched as reinforcements, but its lead elements are arriving piecemeal in Minsk. Meanwhile, the river is only defended by a weak screen of security troops.
This one is clearly going to be about speed.
Your objectives are twofold: to capture Minsk and the major train station at Molodechno on July 2nd at the latest.
July 2nd at the latest. Capture Minsk and the major train to the north. Minsk is going to be the tougher one. That's where the 5th Panzer is coming from. So we might want to rush there and then send other units here, cutting them off. Right? If we cut them off, that's going to make it easier to get the secondary objective to the north.
Stavka also expects you to capture Borisov before July 1st in order to allow our troops to the south to trap and capture the remains of the German 4th Army.
So Borisov by the 1st.
Soviet troops storm Orsha. The German garrison is living its last hours. Capture both Minsk and Molodechno on July 2nd at the latest.
Okay, it's skipping that first objective. It's just pointing out the main one. And there's the Borisov there. There's the objectives. And we were wanting to surround. Well, I don't think that's going to be an issue. It looks like they're not playing through. So there's going to be quite the rush here, and we are certainly going to play an aggressive stance on this one as we move forward. So let me first check my reinforcements. 1st Air Army. There we go. We got a small airfield right here, and right now there is nothing. There are more units coming. Right now, I have a bomber regiment and a fighter regiment. Bomber and assault, fighter and a bomber, and a fighter regiment. 3rd Guard Tank Corps. It's right here, front lines. You got a tank brigade. And reserves. That's coming PM tomorrow. 29th Tank Corps to the north. I'm going to want to wait to call them in until we can move these front lines a little bit, because this is well to the rear. So 31st Tank Brigade. Motorized Brigade, and then reserves. 3rd Guard Cavalry Corps to the far north. They should be able to move fast. There's nothing available right now, though. Cav Division, reserves, and another Cav Division. the obvious first choice for me is either going to be the fighter or the bomber. The fighter can at least clear airspace for us to attack, so we open with that. Get 25 points on that next turn. Alright, so we move off of reserves now. And what kind of progress can you make? I don't want to block the road. Though it doesn't necessarily do that. Now, I kind of want to turn to the north and take the road less traveled, because for one thing, that's the road we need to get that way anyway. And these guys can more or less take that road, but we also need Borisov. So I think these forces are going to split. Some go north, some go south. I do have this unit. This unit's going to be taking the road, probably crossing this terrain in the open, and then taking that road from there. So I only need to send a little bit south. But these guys, I definitely want to go north. So we'll see how far we can push, except that I don't necessarily need to go all at once, do I? Well, there you go. There's our first encounter. Police regiment. Oh, I like that. We got recon squads, commander, supply. They do have 3 heavy machine guns. That's a leader. 6 rifle squads and the anti-tank. So they got 9 anti-tank. They've got 18 rifle squads and 4 recon squads and 3 heavy machine guns. That is pretty weak stuff right there. But I cannot attack them yet. Looks like we are going to have to wait 1 turn, though, before we can really do any sort of attacking here. So we're still going to try to push on. So again, speed's going to be of the utmost importance. You to the road. So no sign of anybody else. I'm not going to push them any further right now because there's no point when there's no support. If they get attacked, they're in trouble. Okay, we got a recon squad, tank regiment. Let's start with the tank regiment. Now, I could surround these guys right away, and that would make it really easy. Oh, we can reach it from here, so why don't you take up that? So close. Let's surround this guy. There we go. Cut off, just like that. We might not even have to fight them. We can just take a couple units, surround them, cut off their supplies, and then eventually they'll surrender. If they try to fight out, it would be pretty easy. Otherwise, they're entrenched. Now, I wanted to take the majority down this road. So, tank... head down that road. Scout, head down that road slightly ahead. And we'll take the artillery. Take you with. We'll hold you back just a little bit. There we go. Cav regiment. It's my boys. And, ooh, a second cav regiment. Alright, you're going to cut the woods. You should be able to move a little bit quicker through there. And there we go. We have spotted another police regiment. Battle Group von Anhalt. Now that's a group I don't want to fight. 8 Panzer 35Rs. Pack 36s. A lot of Pak 36s, 15 of them. Panzerbusche, another anti-tank gun. So they've got tanks and anti-tank weapons and good infantry support. That is a group to surround and not fight directly. Now we are going to have to make a breakthrough here, as we can't just go around like we can up there. Now this is a security regiment that is going to be easier to fight, but also easier to just bypass. Oh, I've got tank brigades. These guys are easy to beat. They're blocking the road, so I think we are going to have to take this group on. Ooh, they've got help. Yeah, and they're dug in. So we are definitely going to want to. Now, these lakes get in the way of trying to go around, so I'm going to pull you up on south side there and pull you up as close as we can in reserve, because that's where your battle's going to start. So we're going to get these guys all up. Okay, 29th Tank Corps. Tank Brigade. We will want to call them up next turn. Add some more firepower. And actually, maybe not next turn, because we'll be able to move up to there. That's the thing to keep an eye on. So 29th Tank. Where's the Cav unit? Oh yeah, see, once we have this controlled, we'll be able to call our reserves from there. But that's going to take 2 or 3 turns to starve them out to move that up. This one we're going to fight through. 3rd Guard Tank. Krupke. And we're going to have to fight through that. Now this... Who can attack you? Oh, over here. We could actually have our first battle already with this. It's a regular infantry regiment, by the way. Motorized battalion. 9 armored recon. Some Valentines. 10 tanks. That's a good unit. That's not a bad unit. And they would have reserves, but it would pull them out. Can I get these guys called up a little bit sooner, though? Oh, you're not even going to let me call on him now? At all? So we have a fighter regiment. Tank brigade coming in. Phase C. Not a big fan of starting out like that. But we do have a definite advantage over them. We'll see. I'm not going to do a battle this episode anyway, so I'll have a little bit of time to think about that. These guys were definitely rushing forward. I don't think I need to send anybody up that road. Maybe, though. Maybe. Just in case. Send a second one up. There you go. Got some support. All right. Now you can see that already we're at that point where nothing can happen this turn unless I decide to engage in that battle. It's a little bit of a risky one because we are not in the best position, but if we're going to strike hard and fast, we're going to have to now. Are these guys available? They are. Now, I could use the fighters to make sure they don't get air support. So we'll set that up. Okay, well, we're starting to get a good look at what's there ahead of us. That's going to be the toughest fight, clearly, breaking down those defenses. Getting those guys out of their dug-in positions is going to be a good start. And win or lose, this first battle, I think we do need to take it on. We're just not in the best position to necessarily win that battle. But if these units come in support, they'll no longer be dug in, and then the next turn we can focus more heavily on them. But that's going to do it for this episode. Getting the second campaign started. Hopefully things could go a bit better this time. I'm certainly going to try to blend my strategy with their desired strategy to keep pushing. We've got till July 2nd to make this happen. So we've got right about a week. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Be sure to hit that like button, and bye for now.